Hi guys, well it is finally here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new ASRock 5700 XT Taichi. Now graphics card production has been quite a new venture for ASRock, and so far they've done a pretty good job for themselves. Today's Taichi has a lot of anticipation attached to it for a number of reasons. One of them being that this card here holds the highest overclock of all the XTs, breaching 2000 MHz and pushing that Strix to the side. Along with the impressive GPU clock boost, Taichi comes with quite a unique design, separating it from the crowd. It boasts a stylish shroud and backplate, which carries 3 cooling fans, the center there hosting addressable RGB lighting. So Taichi is going to be available for $480 in the US and $500 in the UK, so that pricing kind of marks it out as one of the more expensive XTs, though this one here is destined to climb to the top of the performance ladder. As per usual, for that money we expect a great performance both in terms of the processing power but also the cooling too. So firstly let's take a look at all the features on this card, and then we're going to run some benchmarks for you at the end. So this is Taichi. This is the first time that we've seen ASRock use a flagship series for a GPU, and it brings a fresh new design. As mentioned previously, this is quite unique in the XT lineup. It makes use of black, grey and gold, all of the colours you'd find on the respective Taichi motherboard. Now this card does have the RGB lighting and it is addressable, and so that centre fan has the clear blades, which takes full advantage of such a feature, and this extends out onto the edge of the card. You're able to synchronise the lighting on the card with an ASRock board, since this is polychrome sync compatible. And if you prefer to have no LED lighting, there is a physical switch on the card to disable this. And later in the video we'll go into more detail on that cooler. Taichi is one of the largest XTs that we've had a look at, and its physical size will need to be taken into account. And so for the length it is just over 324mm. For the width you're looking at 115mm, and then the height around 50mm. Now this card has a factory overclock applied to the GPU, and it is the highest you'll currently find. As with all 5700 GPUs, RDNA clock speeds operate in a different way to what we've seen in the past from AMD. There is no absolute value for the base or boost clock. The range is defined by that power limit. And so Taichi has a GPU clock boost which can climb up to 2025 MHz, and the memory clock operates at the standard 1750, so no overclock there. And ASRock claim that it is possible to have the boost clock set to 2040 if you install their software and use OC mode. Basically nudges that power limit up by 10%. And so we'll use that in our benchmarks later on. As usual with the XT we get 8GB of GDDR6. It is PCI Express 4.0 compliant, DirectX 12 ready, and it supports OpenGL 4.6. Taichi is a big card and it's going to occupy 2 spaces on your case, and it's going to stray into those 3 slots on your board. On this back panel we'll get more than just your typical XT outputs. And so we've got 4 DisplayPort 1.4s, those give you that 8K at 60, and 2 HDMI 2.0, those give you the 4K at 60. And so it's really good to see those extra ports, especially the HDMI, as that means that you're going to be able to connect your display as well as a VR headset. So AMD's reference XT requires the 8+6-pin connection from the PSU, while our Taichi nudges this up by demanding 8+8 from the PSU, and ASRock recommend a 700-watt power supply. Over on the back side of the card we have a large backplate which is aluminium, and that has the Taichi branding, adding in a splash of gold bling. This plate gives complete protection and it preserves its rigidity, though there are no pockets there for ventilation. Okay, well we've detached the cooler from the card, and this is the thermal solution which ASRock are using. First of all, we have 3 cooling fans, 2 90mm and 1 80mm. And just like most cars, Taichi uses that 0 decibel technology, so that under 60C those fans are going to stop spinning. This card also benefits from dual BIOS, which allows you to switch to a silent profile for noise reduction, though this does limit the GPU clock speed by reducing the power limit. Underneath those fans we have a massive double heatsink, which not only cools the GPU, but also the VRMs too. This heatsink uses 5 copper heat pipes and a copper base plate. ASRock are using an additional metal plate over the memory chips, and we're glad to see that all of them are being covered. Taking a look at the PCB itself, this is a custom board which steps up the phase design from 7+1 to 10+1. That extra power allows them to achieve a decent GPU clock boost range, and it should give us the extra headroom for a manual overclock, which we'll do in our website review. So the driving force behind Taichi is the Navi 10 GPU that utilizes a 7nm process, and it makes use of the new AMD RDNA technology. Now the XT is designed for 1440p due to the hardware spec and the 8GB of memory, and so whereas the non-XT is better for 1080, this card can handle 1440p without any compromise. Okay, well that is our overview complete. Let's now check out some performance by running some games. So we're going to put Taichi up against the reference XT. We'll be using 1440p, a max detail preset within each title. The GPU will be set to OC mode for the maximum GPU clock speed. Now in our website review on Vortez.net, we'll be looking at other games, comparing this one here to other previously reviewed cards, including other XTs and Nvidia's RTX series. And in the background we'll have GPU-Z there running with max enabled for the temperature recordings for the GPU and the memory, so be sure to check that out at the end. Okay, and if we just come out of our last game, we can see what GPU-Z there reports for the temperatures. And so there is the maximum value that our card hit during the testing for the GPU and for the memory. Okay, well that is the Taichi, clearly marked out as ASRock's flagship for the XT. Looking at things, purely from the external design, of all the cards that we've actually looked at so far, this is probably one of my personal favourites. I love the addressable RGB there in the centre, and just the overall styling. It just looks completely different from any of the others. It is distinct and unique. Now Taichi is one of the most expensive XTs out there at the moment. It is $480 in the US, $500 in the UK, and we're of course getting the fastest XT on the market, and it does come with all the bells and whistles. It has that addressable RGB in the center and the side panel. It has the dual BIOS to switch to silent mode for reduced noise, a physical switch to disable the LEDs, and those extra video outs which could make a big difference to some of you with VR. Against the reference XT, as you've just seen, the Taichi offers some impressive frame rate improvements. We experienced around 10 to 15 extra frames per second, and so the GPU clock boost there certainly does help in that regard. Now the cooling performance on this Taichi here is fairly good, though the temps do ramp up considerably before the fans kick in, and when they do, they have to spin pretty fast in order to bring down those temps to an acceptable level. So I think the fan curve could do with being modified on the OC mode. As usual, there will be a link on the screen in the description to our website review for this card here, showing our best manual overclock, comparison to other cards, more resolutions, and of course other games. Now, I'm a big fan of the design of this card in terms of the styling, the look of it, the colours that they've used. What do you guys think? What do you think of this new look from ASRock? Drop your answer in the top right corner, leave a comment below. We hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. We'd be grateful if you could comment, rate and subscribe. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you guys in the next one.